Okay, hello. It's looks like it's just going to be me presenting today. Hopefully maybe a few latecomers will hop in. So I am just going to share my screen here. Let's see. Share screen. All right, so I am going to start my presentation here. For some reason, that doesn't want to get going, so let's try this again. There we go. All right. So welcome everyone to my presentation on SketchUp. Um, there's a photo of me. My name is Kaylee McCandless, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm a red steel carpenter. I'm going to be teaching carpentry at Camosun College here in Victoria. So that's a little intro about myself. Before we get into the presentation, I'd like to start off with a land acknowledgement. I am currently on the Lekwungen territory, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. The Lekwungen people have been here since time immemorial. Lekwungen means a place to smoke herring. And the Lekwungen have maintained a close relationship to the land since time immemorial. And they continue to maintain that relationship. And I think they are excellent role models to us settlers for how we can relate to the land in a respectful way. So for myself, I come from a lineage of Scottish and English settlers who came over to Turtle Island looking for a better life. So I view my role as a settler as one of a guest, and I was always taught, just like being in someone else's home, I was taught to be considerate, to speak and act with respect, and to tread lightly. So I try to bring those values into my daily life, in my physical surroundings, and into my community. If you'd like to check out a little bit more about the Lekwungen people or the Songhees, I've incorporated their website there, and they have a really neat website. There's lots of information there. So check it out if you'd like a little bit more information about where I live. So I'd also like to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion in the classroom setting. So ideal.com was one of the resources that was provided for us, and I thought they did a really excellent job at describing the difference between equity, diversity, and inclusion. So for me, what I understood equity to be is to create fairness in the classroom based on people's needs. Diversity looks like valuing differences by including a number of perspectives in your material and also addressing biases that could happen in the classroom. Inclusion looks like creating a sense of belonging by reducing barriers so everyone can participate. So for example, I made sure that I had the subtitles here for people who are potentially hearing impaired. If you would like to email me any questions or comments or feedback, please feel free. There is my email. There'll also be questions and comments. Well, actually, no one is here today, so there will not be questions and comments at the end. So if you happen to watch this once I've saved it onto the Moodle course webpage, just email me at my VCC email. All right, so we are going to talk about SketchUp. So for those of you who don't know, SketchUp is a 3D modeling software, also known as a building information modeling. So essentially it's a software where you can primarily create drawings, like for a house, and convert them into 3D. So it was created by Bradshaw and Joe Esch in 2000s. So if we kind of rewind back to the 1990s, kind of before the digital era had really taken off, there were some modeling programs out there. AutoCAD was kind of the biggest one in the industry. And I know they've made a lot of changes to make the interface more easy to use, but it's a difficult program to use and not very intuitive. And it took a long time for people to get used to that program. So these two guys basically were tired of the kind of difficulty of using those programs, and they wanted to create something that was a lot easier to use on the computer, that kind of felt like you were actually drawing by hand, but on a computer. So basically they created this model, and it took off. Google bought it in 2006, and they added some really cool features like Google Earth and Warehouse, for that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides. And then Trimble bought that off Google in 2012 for an undisclosed price, so I'm sure it was not cheap. And then they just started dumping a ton of money into it, and basically has brought it up to the level that it is now in terms of an educational tool. And I'll kind of get into more about that, what they provide as a platform. So the majority of people who use SketchUp in industry are people in the building industry. So you have your architects, your engineers, designers, builders, even myself as a carpenter, I will use SketchUp to look at plans and to be able to spin plans around and see what's going on. People in movies, design and gamers will also use SketchUp. And then there's also hobbyists who just like playing around, or people who are doing a home rental and they want to figure out basically, if they want to move a wall, if their kitchen appliances will still work in their kitchen. So it's a really versatile tool for anyone. All right, so I just wanted to show you a video quickly of the capabilities of SketchUp. So this is an animated video by Powell Dobson Architects. And so they basically go over kind of what the process from going from a printed plan version into a 3D modeling software. So as you can see with 3D modeling, we can physically raise the walls on the program. We can put furniture, windows, finishes, lighting even into the house to make it look as realistic as possible. So this is just a really cool feature that you're able to do. And in this version of the modeling software, they have really good rendering software. So that just makes it look very realistic and lifelike. And so obviously this video isn't an example of a step-by-step process of how you would build something in SketchUp. It's just kind of what the starting product to finished product could look like. So kind of before we had 3D modeling software like this, you would have architects essentially with toothpicks and cardboard and hot glue guns building their 3D mini models of a house or a building that they were wanting to create. And so you can just think of the time and effort and really the artwork that went into these mini 3D models, these scale buildings. I know that still does happen in some places, but a lot of it has gone into computer programming. And you can just think, of building your 3D model and then a change coming in and having to take, I don't know, like a mini sledgehammer and having to cut down a wall and redo it or something. So on a computer, you're able to make changes a lot easier and a lot quicker. So that's kind of why 3D modeling software has taken off in the building industry, just because of its speed. All right, so some SketchUp features. ArchiStar Academy highlighted a number of advantages of using SketchUp. So they talked about the program design is designed to make it feel as close to drawing with your hand as possible. And so this is done through clicking and dragging to create lines. And then they also have, SketchUp has really quick keyboard functions that you can do to, say, rotate the view in the program, or adding different boxes or shapes, or you know, taking measurements of your lines. I wanted to be able to go into SketchUp, the program, but I'm just a bit concerned. I have a very old computer and my computer struggles with just doing Zoom and PowerPoint. So I think I'd melt my motherboard if I went in. But so what I did was I took a screenshot of basically when you log on to SketchUp and you go into their start modeling mode, this is what you'll look at. So if you can, hopefully you can see my cursor, but on the left-hand side, there's a bar here with all these symbols. So all these symbols essentially mean different actions that you can do. So this one is to draw a box. This little one is once you draw your box, you can actually raise it up. So then it creates a 3D box. So you can see, like, once you start putting boxes together, you're going to start creating a building essentially. So SketchUp, my first bullet point, SketchUp is available on the web or on a desktop. So this makes it really accessible for a lot of people. So basically you don't have to download it onto your computer as a program, which is what historically 3D modeling programs you have to do. So being able to just go online and sign up either through Google or Apple, or there's a few different other ways you can sign up, and just using it online makes it so easy to use, especially for me. My computer's old. I don't think it could handle downloading it onto my desktop. And so there's also varied accounts for SketchUp. I use the free version, but there are a few tiers of paid versions that you can use. Usually those are for people in industry who will want better packages for rendering and kind of different functions that make their drawings have a more professional feel. But for anyone who's just wanting to play around, or hobbyists, the free account will do a pretty good job of getting you what you want. So my last 3 bullet points are the warehouse. So the warehouse, Google actually added this when they owned it, and it's really cool. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone grew up in the 90s like myself, and playing Sims online. So if you don't know what Sims is, it's basically like you got to create your own like houses and communities, and then you had the people in there living their lives. But essentially, on the game, you got to choose like a selection of houses and furniture. And that's essentially what warehouse is. You go into the warehouse and there's furniture, landscapes, windows. Like basically you can search anything and something will come up and you can add it into your house and alter it. So that's a really cool function. There's also SketchUp Campus, which Trimble added, and that is their educational setting for SketchUp. So there's a wide array of videos that you can do. And in a few of my other slides, we're actually going to go into SketchUp Campus and just take a look at all the tutorials that are available. And finally, they do Google Earth. And that was also when Google Earth bought it, they added that in. So that's a function where you can actually put your house into Google Maps and see where it is, like where the building site will be. And then you can see how the seasons will look like on that building's house site with your house. So you can see, for example, how the sun is going to hit your house throughout the seasons, or, like if you're building right next to the beach, like in the winter, is a rogue wave going to come in through your basement and flood your basement? So those are really cool features to make your building design more efficient and kind of make it more holistic. All right, so we're going to get into the 4 E's of education. So the first one is excite. So how does SketchUp excite learners? So there was some researchers from the UCA in Spain who did a study on the usefulness of SketchUp with students understanding geometric spaces. And what they found was that SketchUp improved the students' skill of spatial orientation and visualization. So this allowed them to grasp the spatial concept of design. And that really makes a lot of sense to me because as a carpenter, it can be difficult to read a set of plans on paper and to visualize in 3D how that building is going to come together when I'm like on an empty site and there's no building there. Like as a carpenter, you need to be able to visualize all those connections. And so with 3D modeling software like SketchUp, it clarifies that 2D to 3D transition. So that's just an amazing tool that it provides. So it essentially brings the concept to life. And through that process, there's so much creativity that goes into it. I mean, like in that video that I showed you from the 3D animated video, you can get so creative with your design. I mean, they added like the outdoor landscape and they had a tree with the leaves blowing. You can really make it whatever you want. It could be a very simple drawing or it could be very detailed. So there's just a huge range of creativity that you can do. And finally, it's an immediate product. So you are watching your building come together as you're building it. And as a carpenter, that's kind of what I do in my daily life. And that is a very rewarding experience to just see what you created in a day. So I find that a very exciting method to do. So some cons of this is that it is still a computer program and it can be a larger learning curve and can also be frustrating. And even though I think SketchUp is really accessible, there's still people who don't have access or frequent access to a computer. So that could be a barrier for some folks trying to use this. So I ended up giving this a B+ just because I felt like the accessibility was a major one for me. All right, so SketchUp as an educational tool, it actually ticks a lot of boxes for andragogy. So the major one is self-directed learning. And I pulled this directly from our book in PIDP, Miriam and Barima's book on adult learning. So we know from their book that adults prefer their own autonomy and to have control over their own learning journey. So SketchUp offers educational tutorials. There's also a YouTube channel. And this basically allows learners to learn the program on their own, at their own pace, and it gives them control of when, how, and what they learn. The next one is the need to know. So adult learners need to know what they are learning is useful and valuable in their lives. And this is especially true for people's jobs. So with the digital transformation, 3D modeling is becoming the way of the future. And almost anyone in the building industry, if you're in design, you are going to need to know a 3D modeling software program. And so this gives students the motivation to learn based on their real world applications of needing this skill in their job. And finally, SketchUp is a project-based learning. So that focuses on problem-centered orientation. So essentially in SketchUp, users are actively engaging in solving design problems, and they can see the immediate results of their work once they've solved those problems. Okay, so the downsides of this is that I have to think about the people who don't really learn best through trial and error and potentially on their own, because SketchUp is something that often you do learn on your own. And then it also requires a time commitment. So even though it is easy to use and there's a lot of educational tools, you do still need to put a fair amount of time into learning the platform if you have an expectation of, say, designing a whole house. There are a lot of functions that you need to learn. So there is the time commitment. So for that, I gave it an A. All right, so for engagement, Okay, so it's an interactive platform that encourages experimentation, learning, and creativity. So you get to, yeah, you get to experiment as you're building your model. So some research that came out from the Canberra Institute of Technology in Australia, a teacher described how SketchUp really helped his students visualize the roof they were about to build. So students were interacting with the drawing and being able to turn the drawing like on the program and be able to zoom in onto the framing and to see all those important connections for their roof. And then they were able to take that and go and make the correct cuts for their roof construction. So another form of engagement is also through SketchUp's SketchUp Campus. So I'm actually just going to click on this link, and we're just going to, hopefully this is just going to work smoothly. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So this is SketchUp Campus courses. So basically, you just make an account and it's free, and then you just look up campus course, and there's all these different courses that you technically just enroll in. So you just click on it, and then there's a list of like short tutorial videos that will take you through a step-by-step process of how to do whatever is being advertised here. So for example, I was doing the SketchUp fundamental. So that's like the basic building blocks of SketchUp. And they actually get you to, they really encourage you to watch the video, but then also be on the platform and like using SketchUp along the video. So it's really like, even though it does feel like you're learning on your own, it feels quite interactive because these videos are so encouraging and you working along with them. And then, so we're just going to, let's see, go back to my PowerPoint. There we go. So yeah, that's SketchUp Campus. And then another one is the YouTube channel. So there's an actual dedicated channel for SketchUp, and there's a couple people on there who are kind of frequent educators, and those provide bite-sized videos for really anything that you can want to learn on SketchUp. So there's a lot of ways that you can engage through this platform. And then the other one is there's an online community as well that provides space for users to share their work, seek feedback, and to participate in ongoing discussions. So for this, I gave it an A+ because I just felt like there were so many different ways that you can engage through your platform. It's just a very interactive platform, and essentially, as soon as you log on, there's no way you can't engage with it. All right, so the final one is evaluate. So you can, assessing students on SketchUp could include a couple of factors. So you could assess their product. So the product could look like evaluating a final drawing based on a set of guidelines that you give your students. You could also assess the process. So that would be observing students' ability to navigate the platform, use certain functions, or problem solve certain challenges that arise. In the free version, there's also SketchUp also provides learning content and curriculum for teachers. So this could be incorporated into learning objectives and assessments. And then finally, SketchUp has its own certification that can be used as an independent form of assessment. So the cons to this is that I think it could lack validity and reliability. And that's just because it doesn't seem, even though there's a certification on SketchUp, there's no standardization throughout institutions of how to teach this. So it just could lack some validity in that case. And then also assessing creativity versus skill could be difficult to assess because there might be students who are more proficient in one area and another. So those were just two things that I thought could be an issue. So I gave evaluation a B+ for SketchUp. And so this brings us to the end of this slide, and this would be the question and comments, but it looks like no one ducked in. So yeah, this is the end of our presentation. And if you have logged on after the live version, I thank you for joining me. And if you do want to send me any feedback or questions, just send it to my email, and I will be posting this up on the course webpage on Moodle. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.